Folks, I have had enough. We need to talk about the NHL preseason. Just this last weekend, we saw a preseason game between the Montreal Canadiens and the Toronto Maple Leafs, resulting in 2 injuries for the Habs in David Reinbacher and especially Patrik Laine. With AHL journeyman Cedric Paré injuring Patrik Laine, there have been calls by a lot of Habs fans to change how the preseason works. So today, we're going to be examining the preseason, the issues that might be coming up with it, and if it needs to be changed, presented by BetUS. And make sure you, of course, watch till the end for that. And hit that subscribe button if you're new for more hockey content just like this as we lead up to the NHL season. We're just a week away, folks, but it's almost here. Now, before we get into all that, I first want to talk about today's sponsor in BetUS. Right now, guys, when you use code YouTube150, you'll get a 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit and 125% sign-up bonus on your next 2 deposits. And with the NHL season right here, they have so many options. They got odds right now for the NHL preseason games. You can go through every single one of them if you want to make bets on your own team. You can also go through player stats for individual players. You can go for NHL divisional races and pick who you think is going to win each division. You can go for the regular season awards, the Calder Trophy, the Vezina, and so many others. You can go for the Stanley Cup as well. If you are thinking about one specific team, you can go for them here. You can also go for the leaders for individual stats with regular season goalie wins, rookie goals, rookie points, shots on goal as well. A lot of good options there. The one that did pique my interest, though, was the regular season goalie wins leader. This, to me, I think is going to be pretty easily Igor Shesterkin. If he played more than 60 games last year, he would have gotten it over Georgiev. He put $5 down to win 35 by the end of the season, and I'm betting hard on Igor. He's going to have a massive season here, folks. But thank you to BetUS for sponsoring today's video. Now, let's talk about the NHL preseason, folks, because up until last weekend, it seemed like it was going pretty well. There were some young players playing well. Matthew Michkov was being a god, and we were seeing some pretty great performances. But it always seems like at least once a year, there's something that goes horribly wrong. Not only did one important player for the Habs in David Reinbacher get injured, but Patrik Laine especially got absolutely destroyed. And this was a situation that was, honestly, it's one of the worst situations possible because Patrik Laine specifically, like Kirby Dach last year, had so much to prove this season, so much to give, I thought, and such a great offensive season to come. And if it gets knocked out in the preseason, in his first game back in the preseason, I would be distraught. I had some pretty big expectations for him to bounce back in a major way this year, right in the prime of what should be his career at 26 years old. He's somebody that I mean could get back to that 40 goal scoring level for the Habs if he were to stay healthy, but that is something that's been a continual problem. He's of course been in the NHLPA assistance program, but even before that, you can see he's never played a full season since his days in Winnipeg back in 2019. Some of that has been of course because of the shortened seasons, but outside of that, he's had some injury problems, and that's been a major factor towards his career being a little bit disappointing since his first couple of seasons with the Jets. The injury was on what was supposed to be such a simple play too. Laine trying to dump the puck in, he comes right through and just gets his leg decimated and falls pretty roughly onto the ice. This injury to me is especially brutal because it could have been so easily avoided, especially in Cedric Paré's case. If he actually had decent positioning towards Laine, I think he could have easily kept him healthy and had a cleaner hit here. You see what Barry, he's kind of coming in on on Laine's right side, not really angled square to him, and all he ends up pushing is his knee and his right side. And yes, it does end up hurting Laine, mostly because I think Laine's form maybe wasn't prepared for that type of hit, but Paré wasn't square to the shooter here. He wasn't actually square to his hitting targets, and I think that's the biggest reason why the injury was caused here. Now, this next take might be a little bit controversial considering all the takes we've heard on this hit throughout the last couple of days, but I don't think Paré was intentionally trying to hurt Laine. I just don't think Paré was smart enough with his body positioning to not hurt Laine with this hit. I just don't think he had the mental wherewithal to understand that that type of positioning, that type of hit was going to injure a player like that. I just don't think he had the mental capacity for it to understand what he was doing, the position he was putting himself with that hit. And you could see the reaction as well, body language wise, from Paré after that hit. I mean, he gets contact, but he stumbles over because of it. He had no idea how to process it, how to read the play, and it resulted in a really unfortunate injury here. You can see on this play, I want you to pay attention to that knee, how the lack of square body positioning comes up and ends up hitting Laine right there on the knee. It's not a total knee-on-knee action. It's not him lunging his knee up completely, but there is movement there towards Laine's body. And I think if he actually had body positioning, it would have been okay, but it makes it seem like he's never hit a guy in his life, which just is baffling to me. This is a guy that up to this point has been a complete AHL journeyman. I mean, he's a center, not a defenseman, so I guess it's a little bit more understandable that he doesn't know how to hit, but he's going to be an AHLer for life and trying to make an impact with the physicality. It just sucks that this is how it had to happen. What's really sad now is that we're seeing Patrik Laine out there with the Habs practices right now, out there in crutches, and it's pretty rough to watch. I mean, he's out there supporting the team. You love to see it, but man, it just feels so much like Graviteh last year, where he had that horrible injury. We immediately saw him on crutches afterwards during the Habs practice, trying to keep the morale going. But I feel like in Laine, there's a pretty good chance that it's the exact same situation and out for the year. I desperately hope I'm wrong and we do see Laine somehow able to get some games in later on in the season, but with how brutal knee injuries can be, with how much time he's already missed, I feel like in Laine's case, there's a pretty good chance that it hurts him again for a while. And we have Eric Engels putting salt in the wound, saying, in case you forgot, the Montreal Canadiens have the most man games lost in the NHL over the last 3 seasons. First in the league in 2022 with 599, first in 2023 with 600, and only third in 2024 with only 390 man games lost. A lot of that, of course, because of Graviteh as well. But if Patrik Laine is a big part of another injured Habs season, that to me was the one thing I wanted to see for Montreal, was health, because we have not seen it with the Habs for so long now. I just wanted to see them healthy. I wanted to see the guys be able to get some reps, be able to get some chemistry going, and then next year we start to see them contend for the playoffs. I didn't really have many expectations. I only saw them really improving by a few points, mostly because maybe some inconsistencies there, here and there, and the chemistry needing some time to gel. But I didn't expect it to happen because of injuries again. Maybe I should have expected that, but I didn't want to, was the point. It's just freak accident after freak accident after freak accident. And it's so sad because you guys know, obviously, the Stars are my favorite team, but the Habs I have such a respect for, such a deep found appreciation for, and they're so exciting. They're going to be so fun with all these prospects, all these younger players coming up. And I've always watched a lot of Montreal during this rebuild process because they've been such a fun team to follow along with my boy Cole Caufield and all the other players they have there. And this year, I was really excited to see the next steps they would take, especially Laine. I was so excited to see this guy finally have some wins this year. But of course, the hockey gods seem to absolutely despise this man. And that's not even mentioning the David Reinbacher situation, which could be pretty rough. We had John from Habs Twitter saying, the worst injury for the Canadiens last night was David Reinbacher, which is true if you don't think emotionally. If he's got a knee injury after the year he had in Clutton, it would be a huge blow for his development. And that is also true. I mean, I feel like with the Reinbacher injury, we'd be talking about a lot more if it wasn't for the Laine injury and how brutal that was. But in Reinbacher's case, he also was somebody that, like Laine, needed to start getting some wins this year, especially for his development. And if he's out, even for a couple months, man, especially to start out his AHL career full time, that would suck. The injury happened on this play after Reinbacher shoots the puck into the offensive zone. A Leafs player collides with him. Just a relatively simple hit, but Reinbacher kind of loses his footing, stumbles along the boards, and definitely hurts himself a little bit there. Another kind of freak accident here happening for Montreal. I'm really rooting for this kid, man, because we already saw him have an injury earlier on in the season in the Swiss League last year, and that was something that I think took him a little while to get back into the groove of things. But the AHL is a pretty big step, and finally playing his first pro hockey in North America, we saw some success there already last year in his 11 games, getting 2 goals, 3 assists, 5 points. I thought had some pretty good moments, even if there were still some times where he needed to read the play a little bit faster, but that was to come, especially for a 19-year-old. But he's somebody that I mean could have taken a big step this next year, could have shown some good things with Laval. I don't think he was going to be Rookie of the Year there, but he was going to find his development, find his footing in North America, and that was really the biggest thing for him to finally take that next step. But man, if it's another knee injury, if he's out for a couple months or so and that really sidelines his season, it would really suck to see, because I think he's somebody that, especially in the Habs prospect pool, really needed to get going to start things out, especially with all the bust labels that have been put on him, everything that's been thrown to him. To finally find some success, to find his footing, would have been so key, so critical. And again, another situation where the Habs needed to have some health and just can't get it to save their lives. And now we go into the conversation about the NHL preseason and how it should be, how it should work. We had this tweet from Hadi Kaliakesh of Elite Prospects talking about the situation, saying, put career AHLers with a point to prove on the same ice surface as stars who are still warming up, and this happens. Preseason should be signed NHLers and prospects only. Enough of this bull. And that's a pretty strong stance for sure, saying that we should limit the NHL preseason, and it sparked a pretty wide debate here. The question is, should they just go for NHL prospects, NHLers, and have that as the preseason, or should we still have AHLers, guys that are still trying to prove something, still wanting to make NHL rosters and show what they're capable of? I think it's a pretty interesting debate here. Now, the thing is, even with what Hadi is proposing, this situation would have still played out the same. Cedric Perret was signed to an NHL contract, at least on July 3rd. Even though he'll likely be in the AHL, he's still got an NHL contract and still would have been playing that game and still would have injured Patrik Laine. The thing for me is I would love to see this type of situation work, but I think we also have to accept that AHLers, I still think, deserve the opportunity to showcase themselves versus NHL talents. Otherwise, I think the playing field is going to be a lot harder for GMs, for these people that are scouting them, to be able to make up, because you have, of course, depth charts, you have situations where players will be right there if there's injuries, and for a lot of these AHL guys, they're proving themselves to be the next man up. The problem for me with any of these scenarios, any of these situations, is that no matter what, players and prospects and whoever will still end up getting hurt. Every single preseason, no matter what, it'll still happen. Even if it's preseason prospects versus NHLers, players are still going to find a way to get hurt because the game of hockey is a hurting physical game. Maybe the compromise is that you have an AHL type preseason where it's only AHL contracts signed, and maybe GMs are able to dissect the best among those as the guys that can be the next man up. But I think all that hurts really is the AHL guys. And sure, there's only a couple of cases every single year where a guy that was on the AHL depth chart could come up in the preseason, play well, and get himself an NHL job. But that's what the dream of making the NHL is all about. It's about putting in the hard work, especially for all those AHL journeymen who have been there for so long, playing physical, grinding hockey in the AHL to be able to win NHL jobs. I still think they should have as much of an opportunity as anybody else to prove themselves. And of course, the unfortunate part is that in a lot of cases, these guys love to bruise. They love to absolutely go goon mode and try to kill as many people as possible to try to win an NHL job. But I just don't think that happens in today's game. I don't think GMs are seeing the guys that are injuring everybody and wanting to bring them onto the roster. You want to bring some physicality, sure, with a lot of these guys who are going to be playing in your depth roles, but I don't think injuring players, getting into penalties, getting all these suspension rumors going is something you want to have on your team. And I think in a lot of cases, GMs would frown upon that. So I don't know. Even if you have it as NHL prospects and NHL players only, I still think there's going to be injuries. Even if you go AHL preseason and those guys just have their own little preseason, I still don't think it's going to be the perfect situation that we all want to see. Maybe you lower the preseason games, but this is the NHL we're talking about here. They're not going to lower the amount of games and lower the amount of revenue they're going to get from gate sales. That's just not going to happen. That's not something the NHL is going to want to do. If anything, we're going to see more regular season games or more preseason games because the NHL cares about money more than anything else, and that's just the simple reality. So I don't know. As much as it absolutely sucks, I'm personally on the side of it's going to happen no matter what. It is just life in hockey that injuries are going to happen. It sucks for the Habs that it's been so awful this preseason, but it just is what it is. And well, for the Montreal Canadiens, they've proved that players will get injured, whether it's the preseason, the regular season, no matter what, they'll find a way. I do get it because it is absolutely frustrating, and I'd love to know your thoughts down below on what you guys think should end up happening, but I just think no matter what, it's going to end up happening. Injuries are going to happen, and I just think keeping it the same way it's always been, I don't think it's a huge problem. We're not seeing hundreds of players getting injured. It's the freak accidents every single year that bring this situation up, but it's going to happen no matter what. But I would love to hear your thoughts down below on if the NHL preseason should change. What do you guys think about it? Should they lower the amount of games? Do you think they should change how the preseason works on who's invited, who's there? I would love to know your thoughts down below, and also your thoughts on the Laine, on the Reinbacher injuries, how serious you guys think that could end up being. And of course, make sure you share the video with all the hockey fans, all the Habs fans you guys know online. Make sure you click that like button, hit that subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more breakdowns just like this. And I will see you guys in the next one. Make sure you support BetUS, today's sponsor. Thank you to BetUS for sponsoring today's video, of course, and I will see you guys in the next one. Also, click on this card for all of my news content, run one playlist, and I will see you guys later. Goodbye.